Hello gamers, it's SuffKitty99 and today we're in Parkitect. In the last episode we took a look at Hickory Hill, so in today's episode let's take a look at Pagoda Valley. A secluded valley presents an ideal location for a thrilling coaster park. The nearby temple is fine with your use of the land, as long as you respect the existing structures. Have at least 500 guests in your park, and your optionals are have no loan debts, sell at least 800 park tickets, and complete all non-optional goals by the end of December year 3. And as you can see, I've got the gold medal, so I did manage to do all of these things. This again was quite an interesting one. It comes with some interesting structures with the pagodas and everything, so remember you've got to respect the existing structures, which means you can't tear anything down. You've got to keep what you've got and utilise the area around them and try and keep in with the idea of a nice Now the thing with this place is the terrain is quite strange. So if I zoom out, as you can see there's an awful lot of up and down on this location, which makes it quite difficult to think about building in. Let's look at this. You've got the up, down, 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 up, down, up, down. So as you can see, I've got some really high support structures on some of the rides, which means that you have to be very careful about what rides you choose to put in, because not all things will support crazy high structures and things. So let's take a look at this up and down. Look at the up and down. It's really crazy terrain, which I found quite difficult actually to utilise. Look at this up, down, really high changes in terrain heights. Look as you go. So when they said a coaster park, you really do have to focus on coasters, because it's very difficult to add anything else to the park, because there is no flat terrain to build on basically. So the visitors come in from this direction. As you can see, look at the up and down all the way. It's right, kind of crazy. So let's zoom in a little bit closer and see if we can actually show you the place itself. So the entrance to Pagoda Valley is right here, and as you can see immediately there's a big structure at the entrance here. So this structure here was already here, so you can't change this structure, and I added on to the back of it this structure for a food court, and as you can see I utilised the same structure that's on here. Look, so I've used the same edges of the things and these red pillars, used the red pillars on the front of our food court area. Look here. So I've added a toilet right in this corner to utilise every little tiny bit of space that we've got, and then we've added this food court here, and I've put the climbing roses and things on the edge of the food court to hide the edges. I've used the white panelling that you can see here to hide all the interior structures, and the visitors really don't like to be able to see all the staff places, so we've hidden them all. So your goods in depot is in this big structure right at the entrance to your park. So I've got a toilet right here and a vending machine, so we've used the last two squares right in this corner, so we're not wasting any space at all. I've added a staff room and a staff training room right in this structure. That's why we've got the white walls around the edge to hide all these staff buildings from the visiting guests. We have soft drinks, candy, hot dogs and bubble tea. We did have a little bit of a shortage of shops in this particular build, so that was also a little bit of strategic thinking as you were trying to make sure that you could give your guests all of their needs met. So we've got a little bit of walkway space under the front here for the guests to be protected from the rain. As you can see, there's quite a lot of rain in this location, which is a little bit awkward. And with the weird terrain, look, you've got this hill right at the entrance, so in order to add a couple of flat rides near the entrance, I've had to build up some really tall step areas to be able to get up to rides, which I really don't particularly like, because there's always a risk of slipping in the rain and stuff. And of course, if you get any disabled guests, how are you ever going to get them up there? And you wouldn't meet safety requirements for letting disabled guests in and out, would you? And of course, so easy for people to slip on steps, so not the best. But I've managed to stick in a twister right up here on this tiny bit of flat land that we've got at the top of this little hill right by the entrance, and a teacups ride. So gentle ride, medium intensity ride right at the entrance. As I say, it's really difficult to add flat rides into this particular park, so you have to be quite careful with fitting flat rides in. And then of course, this has to be a coaster heavy park, and I've added lots of flowers and things. If you think about temples and pagodas and things, I think flowers and scenic scenery and calmness and peace and nature kind of fits in with this. So there's a lot of natural planting and pretty flowers that I've added to the scenery around here. So if you come a little bit further up past your food court, I've added a go-kart track. Again, I've used that pre-built, really tight, compact one, because there really is no flat land. I mean, look at the size of the support structures in order to be able to fit this in. Really, really difficult to fit the places in. Opposite this, I've managed to find a little bit of flat land. Did have to do a bit of terraforming to manage to squeeze in the wave swinger, but I think it's a really great ride, because you can see out over the flatter areas as it swings around, and with the open air and everything. I just think it's a great ride. Not too intense as well near the entrance. And then again, huge platform, lots and lots of high walkways and steps everywhere, but we've managed to get the Enterprise in. And oh no, oh look, I've failed. I've actually got a fence. Oh no, not the no, not that, no, not that, oh, just get rid of the, thank you. I didn't manage to I never opened my Enterprise. See, that was an epic fail, wasn't it? How did I manage to pass the scenario without putting the ride on there for people? Oh. And don't forget, of course, to put on signs telling people not to walk up the exit paths, especially when they're really tall and long like some of these are. Just make sure you've got those don't go through signs, just to make sure everything fits in really well. And again, as you can see, the path's really tall to be able to fit anything in up here. So if we keep coming up the paths are really windy as well to be able to get up and down the hills and things. Look, again, another little tiny food court. Let's drop the scenery down for you. We've got the chute for deliveries to save the staff having to walk far. Again, we've got bubble tea, pizza, and mini donuts this time, because we managed to get a few extra items for shops to add in, and another set of toilets right there. Again, lots of natural planting around the sides of the path. Keep sneaking your way further up the hillside up here, and then the next ride that you come to, if you follow the path round, is the jumper. Again, we've got some quite tall stairs, but this time not quite as tall as before. And then the exit comes round the back up here to lead you further into the park. But if you go a little bit further from the front entrance, you've got another little food court again here. This time we've got candy, hot dogs and soft drinks. Let me just drop the top down for you. So you can see again we've got the Goods depot at the back to save the staff having to walk far. And then at the opposite side here, you can see, if I just swing round, you can see inside the dueling coaster, which the park actually came with. We've got a dueling coaster here, and we've got two. It's a suspended dueling coaster as well, so you've got two different ways in here. So what are these called? I forget what they're called. Can I click them? The Sakura Shooter and the Persimmon Blitz. So here are the coasters. Can I watch the coaster please? So you've got a red and a yellow, and the tracks are dueling. So it's, as I said, the terrain's so up and down that coasters really are the only thing that you can use to conform to the terrain as much as possible. to really utilise the space the best. So I did manage to fit in a few flat rides, because you really do need a few flat rides in the park, but definitely coaster heavy. I like the way these two interact as well, that with the slight differences in the track design. One spins one left and one goes right, and then they interact up and down and over each other. It's really nice way of putting the ride together. Even though it's a dueling coaster, there are enough variations to make the rides different, and I really like that. I don't think I'd have been clever enough to build something quite that pretty, but I think that's a really great use of the train. There you go, one goes left, one goes right, and they dip down with the river and interact with the terrain really, really well. Really like that. Very nice ride. And again, this is a pre-built building, so we've kind of followed the designs of these buildings. They've used lots of these slightly sloped roofs, simple brown roofs, and little red supports and things, little bits of white around the edges. So I've just really utilised that kind of feel. Here's the exit, look, for the jumper around the back here, and that will lead you further up the hill here to that big pagoda structure that you could see as the keynote building from the edge of the so this is definitely the structures that were here originally. This big pagoda is the nice beautiful scenery piece that you can come and sit next to. So we've got quite a few seats around it, a little well area, look here. And if we rotate around, try and give you a better look at this building. Oh, one too far. There you go. This one again is another little structure. Both of these structures, this little garden area with the gate here, lovely gate, very traditional sort of Japanesey style, very well put together using the bits that we get in this game. I really think they've done an awesome job with these buildings. Don't they look great? So if I drop the scenery for you to see inside, there's nothing in that building there. And this one, I just utilised it by adding a couple of toilets and a few seats just to make use of the space, and then add lots of seating around here just to make it a lovely place, a great piece of scenery to sit and contemplate and rest, maybe meditate, and just take a bit of a rest while you're here. And then up on the hillside above this area, we've got another coaster, the Hyper Coaster, again a pre-built. And this, of course, is built really high. I think this is the one we saw right at the beginning of the. This is where we loaded in. When we loaded in, you see, this is right on top of this little hill structure right at the back of the park. And there's the pagoda structure. Back to the dueling coaster here. Look, that goes over the water area here, and then. Here we've got an interaction here, look, the suspended coaster goes over the dueling coaster here, look. There's a lot of interaction between these two different rides, look. So the access to this coaster. So if we come back to the entrance to the Twister and that little food court here, this is the access point for the dueling coaster station, and you come just underneath the dueling coaster across here, up these walkways, to our launched drop tower and our suspended coaster. So there's the access point right here. Can I rotate so you to be able to see better? So this way you go to the Twister, here's the food court, this is where you come for the dueling coaster, one side of the dueling coaster, and if you come under here and up this way, you come to the second side of the dueling coaster, and if you come this way, you come to the launch drop tower, and if you come this way, you come to the suspended coaster right here. So let's follow that around. So they're just dropping down the first drop, and oh no, follow. There are a lot of break points on this run, so it keeps stopping them, but if you look where it stopped them on both of these points here, you're right above the dueling coaster. So if you happen to get stopped there right when you were going to interact with the dueling coaster, that would be great, but unfortunately it does seem to have a little bit too long of a stop for the break runs on this one. It just pauses that little bit too long, I think. There they go. But yes, it's a pre-built loadout, and I think I would have liked to jiggle with the settings for the breakpoints if I was going to be building that myself. I think I'd have played with that a little bit more. So you've got this is quite an intense little ride for one of these coasters. Look at the way they're swinging, and it keeps stopping. So it's quite good actually as a little ride. And we're not going to wait for that because it's going to take forever. So it spins all the way back round. So you can see I've used the red and white theming to build this little station for this one. So we're kind of keeping with the themes that we've had in the structures that came with the building. And both of these coasters, the two dueling coasters and the suspended coaster, all interact with the water. I did really want to add a log flume because there was this little bit of water in, but I just couldn't figure out any way to do it, so I added the suspended coaster above these dueling coasters. So if I zoom further out so you can see how they interact, see that the suspended coaster is basically inside the space of the dueling coaster, and then just over the back as well here, right to the edge of the park. Look where the edge of the park is, barely fits into the edge of the park. So yeah, that's how that fits in there. And there's a little bit of an overview to the pagoda and the drop tower. Then here with the hyper coaster at the back here behind the pagoda. And then the few flat rides that we did manage to squeeze in with all their big tall steps. So it's quite an interesting park, this one, because it's very, very different to anything we've built with before, and all that up and down structure makes it really hard to build. But I think at the end of the day I'm quite happy with the park that I built, and the game gave me the gold medal for it, so that made me really, really happy. So hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. From Softkitty99, goodbye and happy gaming!